everybody, welcome back to my channel. So excited to have you here today. We're doing a series review. I love these. So today's video is in honor of my shooting star patrons who voted because they wanted to see a series review of the Walt Longmire Mystery series books. Very excited to do this today. We'll dive into it in just a second. First of all, I want to give a quick shout out to all of my shooting star patrons over on Patreon. They are Kagamimi, Jennifer, Curran, Rachel, Cheryl, Teresa, Flu, Phil, and Vengeance. Thank you guys so much for voting. Thank you guys for supporting me on Patreon. Thank you and everyone here for joining me today. I'm so excited to get into this series review. So I have today, there's I think 14 maybe 15 books in the series. I only brought the first, I brought the first one and I brought the most recent one that's published right now. So we're going to talk about a little bit more about the first one. The first book in the Walt Longmire series is called The Cold Dish. And these books are by Craig Johnson. So let me just get a little closer so you can see that. You can see a little tag there for the Longmire Mystery series. I think at the time it was on A&E. So that The Cold Dish is the first one. I also have the most recent book. You'll notice I've graduated to hardback, called The Western Star. And I just want to quickly read the other titles because, you know, sometimes when you're going into a series, it's kind of nice to know the order of the books. So here we go. The order of the books in the Longmire series: The Cold Dish, Death Without Company, Kindness Goes Unpunished, Another Man's Moccasins, The Dark Horse, Junkyard Dogs, Hell is Empty, As the Crow Flies, A Serpent's Tooth, Any Other Name, Dry Bones, and An Obvious Fact. There is also, by Craig Johnson, Spirit of Steamboat, which is in the Longmire family, so is Wait for Signs. I think The Highwayman is as well, but I haven't read that one. There's also some e-stories that he's available, or e-stories that are available and in the collection Wait for Signs, and those are Christmas in Absaroka County, Divorce Horse, and Messenger. So very, very cool. Craig Johnson is the New York Times bestselling author of the Longmire Mysteries, the basis for the hit Netflix original series. It was on A&E and then went to Netflix. He is the recipient of the Western Writers America Spur Award for Fiction, and his novella Spirit of Steamboat was one of the one-book Wyoming selection. He lives in Ucross, Wyoming, population 25. So, let's talk about Walt Longmire. I love this series so much. It makes me so happy when he comes out with a new one. I have enjoyed every single one of them. I have read several books back to back and loved every moment of it. The atmosphere of them, the pacing, the language, the writing is all just wonderful. It does grow as he progresses through the series. You can kind of feel him hitting his sweet spot and really getting into it. But even in the very first book, it's really, really good. You have what I consider four main characters in the Walt Longmire series. You have Walt Longmire. He is the sheriff of Absaroka County in Wyoming. That's where the books take place. It's a very, 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 very small town. He is a Vietnam vet. He's about 60-ish in the series. You know, honestly, I'm not sure. I think he's a late 50s, 60s, something like that. But to be a Vietnam vet, he may actually be older. But neither here nor there. He is a man of esteemed age. He's a very well-rounded character. I love that. He's a jazz pianist. He loves reading literature. He's kind of a chronic fixer-upper with his house. He's also a grieving man. When you first meet him, he has recently lost his wife, Martha. He's a father. That's one of the other characters in the book, is his daughter, Katie. Or Katie, sorry. I think they do pronounce it Katie. It's C-A-D-Y, which kind of threw me for the first few books, but it's Katie. So he's just this Western survivalist, been through it all, seen some stuff, just really grounded into the earth kind of character. You really feel with him. You really resonate with him. He's very three-dimensional. Like if Walt Longmire, the character, walked into my living room, I wouldn't be questioning who it was. I would know exactly who this man was. I might think myself slightly insane because now the characters out of my favorite novels have come to life, but neither here nor there. A girl can dream. That's one of the main characters, the character of the series, obviously. The next character, and honestly it's a toss-up for who my favorite is Henry Standing Bear. He also known as the Cheyenne Nation, as Walt Longmire refers to him in the books. Henry Standing Bear is he's a Native American First Peoples individual who lives on the reservation near Absaroka County. He and Walt have known each other all their lives, and they are best friends. One of my favorite parts of this entire series is how wonderful the interaction between those two men goes, how it grows, how it develops, what they talk about, how they interact. I love this relationship between these two men. It's so heartwarming to read a well-depicted friendship among men who have been through some things together, who continue to go through things together, who have such defined personalities but support each other so much through their lives. It's really, really well done. I love it. And in the books, Henry is the consummate badass. He is always there, the nick of time, saving Walt, but it's never done in this way that you're going, really, he's saving him again? Okay. He's never the last ditch effort to survive. He always makes sense. Henry has plenty of issues and foibles as well. He's a bit of a womanizer. But he's a really well-defined, interesting character. He brings a lot of spiritualism to the books. Another one of my favorite parts about the interaction between the two of them is how Walt's spirituality overlaps with the Cheyenne spirituality in the books. I love it. I really just love the emotions and his personality of Henry Standing Bear. I love him two pieces, obviously. Can't sing his praises high enough. Then you have Katie, who is Walt's daughter. She's a lawyer. She is kind of in and out of the books. You see her quite a bit in some, not as much in others. She's very headstrong. She's very independent. She's very determined. I do enjoy her. She's a little less maybe fleshed out in some of the places than others, but mostly what you see her is through Walt Longmire and also Henry's eyes, and of course she can do no wrong. So that's a really nice relationship to see a father and daughter sync up like that, and how much he loves her, and he calls her monk and kiddo, and it's just really good. Love that. Then you also have Vic, or also known as the Terror, Victoria Moretti. She is one of Walt's deputies. She's Italian. She's got quite the mouth on her. It's fantabulous to read. She just brings so much color and spunk and fire and sarcasm and wit and I love like turning all the stereotypes on their head, and how she's just so cool. Like Vic is just the consummate cool, and she's also smart. She's also very good at her job. She's also had her own issues and problems and kind of dealing with those. And you really dive deeply into her family and to her life and that kind of thing throughout the books. And that's really fun to watch too. There's also Lucian, who is the former sheriff at Absaroka, kind of Walt was his protege. And he appears quite a bit in the books as well. He's missing part of one leg. This results in a lot of comedy and self-deprecating humor, which is just fantastic to read. Again, the way these people interplay with each other, you really you can just see it happening in real life. You really want it to happen in real life. And what's best is I love that the man who writes this, Craig Johnson, one of his friends actually is a Cheyenne First Peoples. And they've done interviews and done that sort of thing together. And it's just a pleasure to read. So what I want to do, and all that, before I dive into the books, actually, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that this was an A&E drama, and then it got moved to Netflix when A&E, I think they canceled it, which was just a crying shame. because it's a really good Western. I have to say there's so many differences between the TV show and the books that it's almost like you're talking about two entirely separate storylines. There's a lot of good things going for the TV show. I enjoyed a lot of it. I didn't find as much depth in the character of Walt Longmire in the TV series as they gave him, as obviously he has in the books. They kind of miss some of his three-dimensionality and they give him kind of two, which kind of made me sad. Vic, I liked the choice they made for Vic. I've heard some people say that they didn't care for it because they made Vic this blonde, statuesque woman. But the actress is from Battlestar Galactica, and her name is totally escaping me right now. But I enjoy her. They kind of threw in some eye candy and some other characters that you don't really run into in the books, and some problems that happen that don't really happen in the books. They kind of made Henry a little less badass in the TV series than I enjoy him in being in the books. It's because it's badass with Achilles' heel. You know, there's not like he's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and he's not all-knowing or omnipotent. He's just a very well-rounded man who has learned a lot from his life and his experience, and I feel like that sort of doesn't translate too much into the TV series. That said, all of it's on Netflix. I believe it's the final season has been released, so if you want a really good Western and a drama and kind of a crime whodunit with lots of humor and great acting, I can't recommend the series enough. It's a good watch. So, all that said, let's talk about The Cold Dish, which is the first book in the Walt Longmire series. I'm going to read the back real quick. Let's get into it here. After 24 years as sheriff of Wyoming's Absaroka County, Walt Longmire's hopes for finishing out his tenure in peace are dashed when Cody Pritchard is found dead near the Northern Cheyenne Reservation. 2 years earlier, Cody had been one of 4 high school boys given suspended sentences for raping a local Cheyenne girl. Somebody, it would seem, is seeking vengeance, and Longmire might be the only thing standing between the 3 remaining boys and a Sharps 45-70 Buffalo rifle. With lifelong friend Henry Standing Bear, Deputy Victoria Moretti, and a cast of characters both tragic and humorous enough to fill in the vast emptiness of the High Plains, Walt Longmire attempts to see that revenge, a dish best served cold, is never served at all. Sounds good, right? It really is. And I have to also take a moment to talk about the fact that Wyoming, you know how we've talked a bit on this channel before, and you may have heard or read that a lot of times in, there's many books and movies where New York City is kind of its own character, because, or cities or locations kind of become their own character. I have to say, Craig Johnson brings Wyoming to life in a way that makes me just gasp in awe and never want to go there in the winter under any circumstances, because it's just so cold and foreboding and destitute, just completely empty. It's really, yeah, but at the same time the descriptions of it are just so breathtaking and beautiful. And I've been out west. I've actually driven cross country 4 times, and I've seen quite a bit of the Midwest and Western states. I've never hit Wyoming. I'm gonna add, it's on my to-do list now, but because it just seems like this kind of, oh wow, it's just a really breathtaking description that he puts into the books. So it's very much its own character. Never gets old reading about it. So we have The Cold Dish. I have read you the titles of all of the books that came from the Western Star, which is the most recent book. One of the things I love about the most recent book, I have to talk about real quick, one of the things that Craig Johnson does, and does so very, very well, I think there's probably 2 or 3. It's not very often, but sometimes he will write a book wherein you will have a mystery that is set in the past with the characters, as well as a mystery ongoing in the present with the characters, and how the two weave together. It's always done very, very well. I love it when he does these, because it gives such a wonderful peek into the past of the characters, and in particular one I'm thinking of, and I don't remember which title it belongs to, but you get a glimpse of what Walt and Henry went through in Vietnam, and what their story there was. At the same time, they're solving a mystery in the present day. In the Western Star, it's the same kind of thing. They go on in the past, Walt is a brand new fresh deputy. Lucian is the sheriff in Absaroka County, and they go on the sheriff's train, which is the Western Star, which no longer runs anymore, but in the back in the day it did. And it kind of picks up all of the sheriffs and all of the surrounding counties, and they go on like a 2 or 3 day train trip, basically, to, I guess, compare notes and, you know, camaraderie and that kind of thing. Well, a murder happens on that train and they have to solve it. And then in the present day, you've got a mystery going on as well with the characters and the things that are happening there. So I must warn you, dear reader, that this book ends on one hell of a cliffhanger. So maybe wait for the next one to come out before you pick all of them up if you're interested. Although by the time you read I feel like by the time most people read all of the books and get up to the most recent one, the new one will be out, because I think it's coming out in several months. So can't say enough good things. The whole series is incredible. The writing is superb. The characters are delightful. You really just want to be friends with them and know them in real life. I would love to meet and shake Craig Johnson's hand in real life and say thank you so much for bringing such wonderful joy to me through these books and other people. I have infected many people with the Walt Longmire love. I've loaned these books out many times. I actually have 2 copies of The Cold Dish, incidentally, because I always want to loan one out and have one of my own here. So anyway, excellent series, wonderful. Thank you so much to my Shooting Star patrons for choosing this for your February video. Had so much fun diving into all of these books for you and with you. And for everyone else watching, thank you so much for being with me and for the love of story. I will see you next time. Bye!